Hello, fight fans. Welcome to Bruno's MMA show. What a crazy year this has been. And very soon, for the last week of December, I'll be doing a 2020 retrospective. So keep an eye out for that. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Do not miss it. But in the meantime, there's a few things I gotta say. I want to talk about a few things that kind of seem very 2020 at this point, and I'm kind of happy about those things in a weird way. It's kind of funny. So first things first, the UFC released this hilarious video about praising Dana White as some hero, and he's trashing the media, and they all have their face and names like gangsters in the video, in the montage, because they criticized Dana White during the time that the pandemic started, and that he was gonna do shows anyway, and he wasn't revealing what the safety measures are gonna be. And the thing is, there's basically like a whole video about I don't know, praising Dana White. It was hilarious. It was just hilarious. And they were putting people like Brian Campbell and other MMA media mugshots, and they were showing their names as if to shame them, and I was thinking wow, that's free publicity. That's pretty cool. At a time where the UFC is more popular than ever, because they were the only thing around in sports for a while in 2020, and now they're kind of telling people, hey, these are the journalists, by the way, these are their names. And yeah, I know the goal is to discredit, but the thing is that you're still giving them publicity. It was just funny. And I was like, hey, Dana White, if I talk trash about you, will you give me publicity for my show? I would love that. It's like, hey, I've been criticizing him a lot, so I'm just hoping maybe I should continue talking trash even more about him, and then he'll do some video, and maybe I can be in the next one. Can I have my mugshot? Can I have my mugshot for that, please? Bruno's MMA show, come on, red. Dana White is an idiot. Come on, and they're like, this Dana White is an idiot. Bruno's MMA show. It was hilarious. I just wanted to mention, because, in all seriousness, that was crap. That was just Dana White brought it up on himself, like he does with a lot of things lately. And I'm going to explain that, because UFC had a great year, right? But wait for it. So he really antagonized the media. And then he's complaining when the media was like, this seems reckless. We don't know what the measures are. In Brasilia, he didn't have any COVID testing. So, all those things. Which means that people are justified to doubt him, basically. But he didn't want to give them any information. And then he complains when people are like, we don't know what he's going to do. It seems reckless, right? So again, basically he's acting like a crybaby who can't take any criticism. And the best thing he could have done, and this, look, this is someone who thinks UFC had a great year, and what they did after the fact, after Disney, after Big Mouse told Dana White to cool it down a bit and have some safety measures. What they did was amazing for the sport, and it was after the fact. And I just think it's really, really funny how petty he is. That guy is acting like he's a hero, with the music, the inspiring music, and the slow motion walk. I was bro, calm down. He was dismissing the whole thing. The tests, all of that came because the Big Mouse told you to, okay? Stop trying to act. The video would have you think that they had the safety measures from the start. They didn't. And whatever you think of COVID. My whole point is just the video was bragging about it, therefore, even if you're a denier of the whole pandemic thing, the video was bragging about it. So, they were bragging about the fact that they were safe about it. Can't be dismissed. So yeah, Dana White is an idiot. He looks dumb. Okay, so I'm hoping that this will bring me into the next trying to shame the media thing. Maybe that's what makes the channel explode, right? Yeah, okay, I'm making jokes, but it's just funny because the best thing he could have done was just to be people had their doubts, and this is what he did. And also, thank you, fighters. Was mentioned in the show Morning Combat. What about the fighters? This was a Dana White jacking off piece. Like it wasn't about the people who actually took the risks. Let's face it. But all of that comes like, what I love about 2020 right now? It's capping off for a sport in a great place. Yeah, the UFC brought a lot of eyes to it, and all the fighters are going elsewhere. And here's the thing, okay? Some people might be like, okay, Bruno, you're doing like shows with Mark Hunt, the MMA FA, and with Rob Mazy, and like you talk trash about Dana White. And do you hate the UFC? Like, don't you like this sport? And the thing is, I don't hate the UFC. I don't care about the UFC. I care about the sport. I love martial arts. This is why I started this show. I love martial arts. And whatever company has fighters doing their thing, I don't care which one it is. Like people put so much stock into like, like Bellator doesn't have the roster that UFC has. Like and then they obsess about these things. But well, first of all, Bellator is getting there. We're gonna get to that. But for me, I don't care. Like, just show me, okay, this event. Who's in this event? Because if a company doesn't have the same amount of great fighters, but that one event they put all of their really good ones who are world level, like world champion level and all that. Like, I don't care what company they're in. So right now we're ending 2020 with the Pettis brothers, like being in Bellator and PFL. So Anthony Pettis left UFC, went to PFL. PFL signed Clarissa Shields, who, okay, is not a name in MMA. She's a name in boxing, but that's still a big name, and that's a PFL. So it's amazing for PFL. Bellator now has George Romero. Did they say George Romero? So yeah, George Romero was the guy who made the Night of the Living Dead movies. So yeah, brain glitch there. But they have Romero. So they have Romero, and that is insane. They have Rumble. Corey Anderson. Like, I'm still laughing about my own mistake. I'm not gonna edit it out. It's kind of funny. George A. Romero was a guy who basically created the zombies as we know them in the movies. It's an all black and white movie, Night of the Living Dead. Made lots of sequels. Look it up, people. They're good movies. But nevertheless, so it's just insane how right now, as the year ends, lots of fighters are going somewhere else, and that is amazing. That's that free market. Those 3 letters of UFC mean nothing. Okay, your prize fighters get paid. Bring your talents, or your talents will be appreciated with a paycheck. People are like, it's sad when you see fighters who put so much stock into UFC itself, and they really shouldn't. And the people watching are starting to come around, because now you see the comments and the social media of these fighters like Romero and Pettis, and people are like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to start watching Bellator. Oh, I guess I'll start watching PFL. I'm like, yes, good idea. Great idea. And you know what? I'm also guilty of that, because most of my episodes are always about UFC. I'm gonna, like, I did a few, but like I talk about one championship as well, but I haven't, I have to start covering the other ones, because my mentality has always been, just go where the good fighters are, don't care about the company, and neither should the fighters. And yeah, it's just one of those things where I'm really happy. And the thing is that Dana White right now is creating enemies with the fighters, because what they figured out was, okay, ESPN is paying us. Why would we pay for these more expensive fighters? So in that video where they were bragging about firing no one in 2020, Dana White just ended the year before that video came out saying that they were going to get rid of 60 fighters. And they got rid of Romero. That tells you a lot. Yoel Romero, not George Romero. Because the thing is that they're continuing Contender Series. They're saying they're going to get rid of 60 fighters, but they're going to continue to bring in new ones. What does that tell you? He does not want to pay the fighters. He just wants to put on shows. And because they don't depend on pay-per-views like they used to, thanks to ESPN, now they just want to have just this amount of shows. And in some rare cases, when the pay-per-view is big enough, like Conor McGregor, or like when then it's worth it, when it will really make a difference, sure, they want to continue that. But anything in between where fan favorites that are costing a lot of money and they're not necessarily, they didn't win the last fight or something, or they might be having a tougher road at it, and they're costing more, they're getting rid of them. Just and the fighters know it. They're gonna start going other places now because they see the writing on the wall. I think a lot of people are gonna realize, oh yeah, UFC is not the place to be anymore. It's one of the places, which is amazing. I believe in capitalism, and I think that what the UFC does is not clean capitalism. You're talking monopsony, you're talking monopoly. Yep. That's not what it's about. Employees should have choices. People selling stuff should have choices. If the fighters are independent contractors, they have something to sell. They shouldn't have a single place to sell it to. They should be able to choose where they sell it. So, yeah, by doing that, like, fighters are going elsewhere, and what they're missing the point. If fighters start going elsewhere, then people are going to start realizing, the casuals are going to start realizing that UFC is not the only place. And that is amazing for the sport. So I wouldn't care if tomorrow the UFC went bankrupt. I really wouldn't, because another organization would take their place. So I just want to see the fights. If they're at UFC, great. If they're at Bellator, great. If they're at PFL, great. Just tell me how to watch them. Where is it? Okay, cool. I have an online connection, I can watch them. It is amazing. I think we're ending the year in a really good place. Yeah, I think, it's just the chickens are coming home to roost. It's just one of those things. And now another thing, this is the year of the weird fights, and 2021 is not going to be any different. So we already, we had like Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr., and that was interesting, and that was what it was, and that was fun, sure. And we thought maybe that was the weirdest thing that that wasn't stuck regarding fights we didn't expect and are kind of weird, the call out fights and stuff like that. And these are money fights, back when fighters would say the money fight. These are money fights. These are just fights you do for the money. I don't know. For Tyson and Roy Jones Jr., I think there's also like, they felt like they still had something in them and they wanted, kind of the Rocky Balboa thing. But then you have like really weird fights like Jake Paul and the NBA player whose name escapes me right now. The one that had memes made on him because he got knocked out. And we had just like, okay, 2020 seemed like this weird thing, but it's going to continue in 2021. Because now we have like the Paul brothers who join in the fighting sports big time. So Logan Paul against Floyd Mayweather, sure. Talk about a money fight. Like, that fight happens only for the money. There is no reason for a sport for it to happen. But it's boxing. I'm not as passionate about boxing as I am about MMA. So I feel very unaffected. Like, it's kind of funny when all the MMA people are up in arms about it. And it's like, well, yeah, okay, that's boxing. I don't know. There's something about MMA that seems to be pretty pure so far. You have sometimes CM Punk trying to join the UFC and then he gets beaten up and people go like, oh, wow, that didn't go well. And the thing about MMA is when you have two people who are not pros, if they start fighting each other, you're gonna, even for the casual observer, like, you're gonna see these people are not pro fighters. There's gonna be a difference you can see. Whereas in boxing, it's kind of weird where legit boxers will see when someone is not a legit professional boxer, but to the casual eye, the fact that there is no grappling, the fact, like, it's just people punching each other. To a casual eye that doesn't know what to look for, you can have two people who are not that good at boxing, but if they're determined and they want to punch each other, and it's gonna look, to the casual eye, it's going to look okay. It's going to look like an okay boxing fight. It's going to look like an actual boxing fight. If two people want to take their heads off and they're motivated, you put gloves on them, and they know at least the basics of boxing. Again, our pro boxer will go through them, and we're going to see that with Paul and Mayweather. But if you take two, I mean, look at street beefs, okay? They have some super fun fights, super fun boxing fights with people who are nowhere near pro level. And those are very entertaining fights. And a lot of people wouldn't tell the difference. Yeah, that's a fact. Because throwing punches is visually, to a lot of people, like, oh yeah, I get that. I see nothing wrong with that. He threw a punch. It landed. It didn't land. I see nothing wrong with that. You know, like, they're not going to be thinking of slipping and the angles. And if the punches were inside the square that they should be in front, whatever. But in MMA, if two people grab each other and they don't know what to do, they're grabbing each other, it's going to look like two drunk people in a nightclub having a disagreement. We've all seen that fight, right? You're in a bar, in a club, and two people start like fighting, but they're kind of like hugging each other, not knowing what to do. And one of them starts like trying to punch the back of the dude. And so he's like patting his back, but with a fist, you know? We all seen that kind of fight, right? In bars, like grabbing the shirt. And obviously there's no shirts in MMA, but you know. It's just one of those things where you can't fake MMA, but you can fake boxing for the casual people. So, you know, I remember when, does anyone remember when Justin Bieber called out Tom Cruise for an MMA fight online? That was fun. And Justin Bieber was like tagging the UFC, and as Bellator responded, yeah, let's make it happen. That was funny. So this is kind of like, okay, that was weird. Like, it was like Logan Paul and Floyd Mayweather. Okay. Yeah, good on Mayweather. But then it got better. Then we have Jake Paul against Ben Askren in a boxing fight. Did I say better? I meant worse? I'm a huge Ben Askren fan, by the way. Like, you know, I didn't throw him under the bus because of what happened with Masvidal. And the fight with Maia, yeah, he lost, but that was an awesome grappling exchange. And people who are like laughing at the striking, like, yeah, sure, like the Maia Askren fight was not an example of good striking, but it's kind of funny how people are, where if two really good strikers in MMA with below average for the level grappling fight each other, and they don't even grapple at all, no one's going to be like, oh, they didn't even grapple, that wasn't a full MMA fight, that's ridiculous. They're just going to be like, wow, that was cool. Basically in MMA, you often have kickboxing fights where people don't complain. Yet when Maia and Askren fought, and that was like two grapplers, let's face it, yeah, they had to have some strikes on the feet, which were not anything to be talking about, I guess. I mean, you can talk about it, but I mean, it wasn't like, you don't watch the Maia Askren fight for the striking. You watch it for the grappling. And the grappling delivered. It was world level MMA grappling. It was amazing. And yet, it's kind of weird how fans are, where if a fight is only striking, they have, and maybe there's like some bad grappling because it's MMA, they're still allowed, so people have bad grappling, and it's almost like they don't have the trained eye to notice, oh, well, that grappling, you know, maybe not the best. No, they're just, oh, that striking was amazing. Or if they don't even try to grapple. But then in the Askren Maia fight, people are kind of like mocking the striking, but here's the thing. You can mock the striking if you want, okay? I'm not going to judge that, but it's kind of weird to me how there's more talk about how bad the striking was than how amazing the grappling was, which is missing the point of that fight. Okay, that's it. So people are throwing Ben Askren under the bus because of Masvidal knee, which happened very quickly. We don't know how that fight would have gone if that knee hadn't knocked out Askren. It might have been very similar to Masvidal and Usman, let me tell you. And then we have the my Askren fight, and Askren loses, but it was a really cool like MMA grappling fight. All of that to say, as someone who's actually a fan of Ben Askren, I would say very respectfully that I wouldn't watch Ben Askren for the striking. I think that goes without saying. So what happens if Jake Paul knocks out Ben Askren in boxing? Yeah, MMA's credibility for casual people is gonna take a hit. I don't really care. I mean, I hope Ben Askren wins, don't get me wrong, but I don't care about what casual people think there. I was a teenager and I would rent the UFC VHS tapes from UFC 1 and 2. Those were the ones, 1 and 2. Those were the ones that the video store had. And some people said like you were renting a snuff film or something. It was just this thing that was really weird to watch, I guess, for a lot of people. You know, I rented it many times, loved it. Those early UFC fights with very few rules and really weird moments. They were freak shows in their own way, but they had a purpose to them. Now we're getting like freak fights that are just like for the money, and people are worried what it's going to do to combat sports. It's not going to do anything to combat sports, okay? Yes, we're going to start seeing more and more of those. That's for sure. But it's a call out era, you know? And I noticed that Jake Paul was calling out MMA fighters, but are all grapplers, like Dylan Dennis, and now he's fighting Ben Askren. Like, he was never going to call out an MMA fighter who knows how to strike. Let's be really clear on that. But it's just, again, you can't fake MMA, but you can fake boxing. And I don't mean that as a disrespect to boxing fans. Like, boxing fans can tell the difference, but to the casual people. I know that Logan Paul has some experience in wrestling. I don't know about Jake Paul. Maybe they should go do MMA at some point. Just, you know, they're calling out MMA people. Do MMA, don't do boxing. But anyway. But in the spirit of doing call-outs, it's now the thing to do, apparently. And with my rant about Dana White and, you know, like all of that, I am calling out Dana White to a Lethwei fight. And I am, I don't know, what else? I am calling out Ben Askren to a online battleship game, to a match, online battleship match. And I don't know, just if you have any suggestions for more call-outs I should do, more challenges I should put out there, just like write in the comments. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Anyway, so I'll see you guys again later this year for the last week of December. I'll be doing a video retrospective, and I also have another video coming soon with Jean-Charles Karwoski. I filmed it weeks ago, but we did it in French. I wanted to do it in French because that's his native tongue, and I speak it because I'm part French Canadian. And it's taking me a long time to subtitle that thing, but that's another thing that will be coming out soon. So anyway, everyone, thanks for watching.